Hi, we have here another chess puzzle by Susan Polgar where it isn't made clear whether white or black moves first or whether it's a win or a draw. Well, clearly if white moved first, he'd easily win with d7, king e7 and then king c7. And so it must be black to move first. The question is, can black salvage a draw here? I think he can, because we need to work on the premise that if he can win the pawn by surrendering his knight, then white would have insufficient material with king plus knight against lone king to force the win, and so a half-half result. The key move is, can you see it, and why does it work? Okay, well, the key move is knight to d3. And note that if d7 now, knight e5 wins the pawn and draws. So there are two replies. Nothing else really is worth considering. The first reply is to king c7. And here, black has to be careful not to play knight e5 because of knight f3, when of course if black took the knight, white would have no trouble queening his pawn. He'd have to play here, so here, here, and then here. Again, if he takes the knight, white queens the pawn. So black has to go here. Knight to g6, check, and wins, because black can no longer defend the knight on d8. He can't go to e8, and he has to move away. Just to note here, this is a neat little ploy on black's part, that knight c6 check doesn't win, because after this, take, to d8. Now how does white protect his pawn? Well, of course, he goes here. And look what we have there. Stalemate. So that's something that we have to avoid if you're white. But like I say, knight g6 wins. So just to go back to the original position again for a moment. So knight d3, king c7. And I did say not knight e5 now, so instead try knight c5. And how does white reply to that? Well, he in fact plays knight to f3. Should he play here, then here. In fact, here, if you like, you can go back to here and it repeats the position. So really this proves that king c7 and king c6 is no good at all. But, like I say, knight e6, and try it out for yourself if you want, that after d7 and to here, it does draw. And if you want the analysis at any time, please feel free to ask me. So just go back to the original position again. I did say knight d3, king c7. So instead of after knight c5, bringing the king back and possibly going here or here and drawing, he plays knight f3. So king e8. Knight e5. The knight swings around to e6. This is the best way of defending against white being able to find itself in a position to queen that pawn. Knight e6 check. King c6. Knight f8. You see the plan to stop the pawn at all costs. Even if it means giving up the knight, there's no problem. King c7. Can't afford to push the pawn on. Knight e6 check. King c6. Knight f8. There is no way of making progress there, and that is ostensibly a draw. It doesn't matter what he tries to do, because even if he tried something like this, wanting to coax the knight away, and that, well, of course, he can just do that. Alternatively, in this position, should he do this, then really you can come back to this and stop the pawn. So it would be a draw. There's no problem there at all. So let's just look at the other variation on this one. This is after knight d3. Instead of king c7, an immediate knight f3 to stop this going in here. So now, of course, white is threatening that. So what happens there? Well, king comes here. If he pushes the pawn on, then of course going here would not be a good idea, so you go here. King d6. Many might be thinking, oh well, what about knight g5, with the idea of driving the king away, and then there. Well, that's okay, because we come back to this little problem here and we win the pawn fork. That's why really the knight on f3 is best to stay there to stop knight e5. So we don't do that. We play king d6. What do we play then to wrap things up here? This is a very interesting position. There isn't just one move, as a matter of fact, that draws it. Let's have a good look at it. Well, this is good enough to win, because quite simply, if white takes that knight, then black takes the pawn. And if white doesn't take the knight, then the knight will take the white pawn. Although what is interesting is to play here. Now, take it off, and it's stalemate. Okay, so don't take with the knight, take with the king. And you're thinking, oh, it's no longer stalemate. No, but it's take the pawn. And a king plus a knight against a lone king is insufficient to force the win. So let's just for a moment put it back, make sure that we've covered everything there. I think we have. I'll just make absolutely sure. Right, so I did say knight to there. Knight to there, king to e8. Yeah, we tried d7, so instead of d7, king c7. And then you play knight c5. And if you recall, the variation where we played 2 king c7, knight c5, knight f3, king e8, it's a direct transposition, so there was no difference here at all. We've simply played on this occasion knight f3 before king c7, and it eventually works out at the same. And just to remind anyone looking at this what happened after king e8, just have a look, knight e5, and we brought the knight around like that. And of course the king went to here, and the knight went around like that. And then it went like this, and it went like this. And so it's just a repetition, and so it's a draw. I trust you enjoyed that one. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and goodbye for now.